Hey there, Edgar community. In case you haven't noticed, it is 2018, and it is very, very clear that social media is not going anywhere. There are now billions and millions of people online and so many businesses on social media. Across the world, consumers are discovering new brands and following their loyal brands online and engaging with and buying from businesses, all because of social media. So we know you cannot afford not to be on social media as a brand these days. And in 2019, your marketing strategy can be so powerful. If we stop for a minute to take a look back at some of the effective 2018 trends that we saw and how you can take those into 2019 with your social media strategy. Now, in 2019, you cannot just afford to just type 280 characters into a post and expect anyone to respond to it anymore. No, now social media is a place where videos live, where photos and boomerangs and more are sent out every day. People are on Facebook Live like this one, and that's what we're going to chat about today. Trends used by other brands in 2018 that you can borrow as you start to set your 2019 strategy. And it's so important to have a clear strategy set out for 2019 for your social media campaigns. Because when you start to hear statistics like 4 in 10 internet users say they are following their favorite brands on social media, and a quarter of people are following brands that they are thinking about purchasing from. So therefore, it is all about catching people's attention and developing your really great effective strategy now so you don't miss out on a huge part of the market. And learning from trends and shaking up your own marketing strategy is a really easy way to allow this process to work for you. So take the tips that work for you in this Facebook Live and take kind of a crawl, walk, run approach to it. Start learning the basics of marketing now so you can start analyzing year over year what's working for your brand and develop some really great content. And starting out here, we suggest always at the end of the year, starting to audit with your Facebook insights and your Twitter analytics to get an idea of how your audience has changed over the past year. They may no longer be the same demographics that you started with in 2018, and you want to keep relevant for your audience to know their current interests in 2019, and knowing what worked for you and what didn't work for you in the past is key to social media success. And this audit is so important so you can double down on the content that is winning the most impressions and engagement and refine the content that's not hitting the mark as much. So let's jump in here a little bit. One trend that is always going to matter, no matter what time of year it is, when it comes to marketing on social media, is how to effectively increase your all-important know, like, and trust factor. And you do this in the form of constantly showing up for your followers, having meaningful conversations with them around your brand, and think about a meaningful conversation that you have in real life to help guide this strategy. It's not going to be one-sided when you're sitting there and talking to a person like at a dinner party, let's say. It's a back and forth between the two of you asking questions and connecting with each other. So take these real life experiences that you've had and the ones in conversations that have gone well and bring that into your social media. Ask questions of your followers to connect with them and get that dialogue going. One of my favorite new terms around this concept that I actually just heard from Instagram influencer Jenna Kutcher, who uses the term posting and ghosting to showcase how rude it is as a social media marketer to just broadcast and be posting out there, but never respond back to your followers. So no ghosting your audience in 2019. Another great influencer in this area who is talking about why know, like, and trust factor is still relevant to take into your 2019 strategy is Jay Bear. He's a leading expert on this, and he talks a ton about the sense that you want to create this community so that you can get some word of mouth marketing out of your followers. Now, how can you start to capitalize on word of mouth marketing for your 2019 social media strategy? I'm going to suggest starting with user-generated content. And that's because word of mouth marketing is one of the best trust builders out there. It's people buying from people they already trust, so you don't have to take as much time to build up someone's trust as they have already formed it through their friends knowing about your brand and product. So get on board with the influencer word of mouth marketing trend for your 2019 strategy. So when focusing on this word of mouth marketing, remember user-generated content is the perfect place that you can start telling a story around your product or service. Now, Jay Bear says to remember when you're kind of creating your campaigns around word of mouth marketing, that it has to be something remarkable. People only talk about brands with their friends if it's a remarkable brand. It has to be a story worth telling. It also has to be repeatable. It's got to be something that every single customer can get. Because if you hear about a brand and how amazing they are, your friend wants to go to it and have that same repeatable experience. It also has to be reasonable. So don't think you have to get crazy to be talked about. When you offer experiences to your customers that are too grand, Jay says it doesn't create conversation. It actually does the opposite, and it creates a little bit of a skepticism in it. So keep things realistic, keep things human. And remember, the last part Jay recommends doing when thinking about your word of mouth marketing is that it has to be relevant and make sense in the concept of who and what your brand is on social media. So all about developing your brand voice there. So focus on being a brand people know, like, and trust and want to hang out with and talk to with their friends and acquaintances in 2019. Now, trend number 2 here is going to start out a little bit negative, and that's because we all know and hate to admit it that social media is a crowded space. You are competing against a ton of noise out there as a marketer, and a ton of marketers are trying to gain the attention from people's followers and from people's feeds elsewhere. So trend number 2 is going to be how you can bust through that and gain the attention of your core audience. You want to do this by creating a strong hook in your post from the first 2 seconds that someone is watching. And to grab someone's attention, you are asking someone essentially to stop what they're doing. You're essentially disrupting their day and asking them to look at your content and your message rather than continuing along with their social media scrolling. So you need to get really clear in that your message needs to entice people from the start to abandon what they were doing and pay attention to you. And you need to use the platform's own unique niches when it comes to creating this content to capture attention quickly. And that's because your message needs to resonate with what's going on in that network. So some general guidelines that we're going to throw out is each platform's uniqueness comes from the fact that Facebook does really well for photos, videos, live streams, entertainment, and education. Twitter does really well for link building, curated content, GIFs, stuff like that. Instagram, focus on your quality photos and videos, your boomerangs, your stories for 2019. LinkedIn, huge for links, industry news, and video these days. So pay attention to the network specifics when you're hooking people in for that first 2-second grab. So how do you do this best, really? How do you hook them quickly? It is to use emotion in your social media posts. People are going to be so emotional in their decision-making when it comes from purchasing from brands, and emotions are going to what gets people to stop their scrolling pattern and connect with your brand that much faster. So when writing your headlines, when writing your social media posts, think of emotional words you can add in to entice people to look at your content. Focus on that quality posting, not necessarily quantity, to show your followers that your brand is relevant and worth following and engaging with. And that leads to trend number 3 here. And that is that we see a ton of it in 2018. And that is that to not forget, we are creating content for real people out there. Don't forget that there are people behind the screen scrolling through, and they have pain points and they have emotions that we have a responsibility as marketers to convey our message and our links that we're putting out there on social media to help them trust your product and to help know it will solve their pain points. And if you're unsure what your customers' pain points are going into 2019 and how you can speak to them best, take to the internet to find out. Go Google or go to sites like Quora to see what the top search terms and top questions people in your space are asking about your product, so your social media posts can answer those questions. It's a great way to connect with and add value to your audience in a relatable way that can bring their questions and bring your answers and connect in times when they need you. And this really helps your post stand out if you're answering your audience's question. But remember not to be too dry about it like it's just an FAQ. Social media is all about entertainment when it comes to it. So remember, if your intent is to help people and add value to them with that emotional connection, it is a winning formula. And if your intent behind your brand message is sincere and coming from a real human, it makes it that much more of you outperforming your competitors, becoming a thought leader, and becoming an authority in your niche. So always be looking for ways to answer these top questions for your followers, and always look for a way to share that why behind your core message to connect as well. It means that you can answer questions that people already have. And if your why is even related to something like revenue goals, that's okay too. It's important to link all of your business strategies into your social media strategy for 2019. So if you have a revenue goal, that can be part of your passion because you know you have a valuable product that's worth people spending money on and spending time learning about, and it will make their life better if they do so, and it will also valuably help your business grow. So having that confidence in your product and your service needs to come from you first so that your authority and your audience can get a really great connection going. And if you bring your revenue goals into your social media strategy, it allows you to have a budget laid out as a part of your marketing strategy too. And it helps you know what you can spend money on for your ads to get your message and your reach and engagement out there even more. So this trend we're seeing is really linked to that all your business goals should be part of this emotional storytelling. It should have your marketing message in mind, no matter what, to create the strongest audience persona. And think of where this audience persona that you've created is and how you can loop your messaging in to speak right to them, to increase your brand awareness, drive traffic to your website, generate leads, and ultimately boost your sales. So speaking of audience personas, let's move on here to talk a little bit about how you can take the time to develop a really strong one. It helps to get rid of any unclear or diluted messaging, and it helps your brand really stay relevant and attract the right core audience if you have this persona developed. And remember, this process is not a quick one, developing your personas. We've taken months to get our persona here at MeetEdgar developed, and it can evolve over time too. You also wanted to remember that your persona should be as specific as possible. It should be one person speaking to someone with a name, with an age, with a personality trait behind it. This way, when you're writing your updates, when you're shooting your videos, when you're developing your strategy, you can talk to that one person. And your communication this way becomes that much more clear and intimate. So this trend, when we wrap it all up here, is really about this idea that we see marketers who build their audience best, build their personas first. They build this character set first, and then they build the product and the content after. So take the time to first develop that persona. And people who are conveying messages best on social media these days are not really thinking of themselves as traditional copywriters anymore. Rather, they're thinking of themselves as people who are problem solvers and storytellers. And that's how their content is really getting out to their followers. So ask yourself, what problems can you solve to drive value to that specific persona you've developed? So how can you do this a little bit more in a crowded space with so little time as a business owner? That's going to be answered in our next trend to look out for your 2019 marketing strategy. And that is, you always need to be thinking about how to repurpose your content. We don't want you to have to reinvent the wheel with every piece of content you put out there. There is a ton behind the messaging you're putting out there. And as a business owner, you do not need to get bogged down in 100% original content every time. You can repurpose existing content, and that will have an ability to connect with your followers still. Examples of repurposing content are things like cutting up a blog post into just standalone tips that you can overlay on some graphics maybe, or finding one of your past webinars and splicing out some of the video from that to use in shorter clips in your social media feeds. Or think about like your newsletter. There's a ton of gold and great gems of content in there, but oftentimes these will go to people's promotional tab in Gmail. And a lot of times that content isn't seen every single newsletter. So repurposing the content you have in there onto social media posts is a great strategy where people can self-select in and still get your quality content. So think about auditing some of your past content, how you can freshen it up and take it still into your social media strategy for 2019 so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And this is especially important for something off of social media a little bit, and that's going to be your SEO. And that's because Google actually in 2018 is taking into account relevance quite a bit. And how they're measuring relevance is making sure when people are actually going to links that they're spending a significant amount of time on those pages. So this is so important because that means when they click over, that answered the question or the query they typed into Google, and it's showing Google that, hey, my links are relevant and providing people value. So keeping your old content fresh, going back to your old blog posts and auditing them is a great strategy to take into 2019. Now, going a little bit further here, making sure your older content is always staying evergreen, another great strategy is to maybe go back and repost one of your first blog posts that you wrote. It's a great way to get that origin story out there. You can say something, you don't even have to freshen it up necessarily on the blog when you're posting it to your social channels. You can talk about how you or your business has changed since originally writing this blog post, and people will connect with and feel like they're a part of your brand story a little bit stronger that way. And people love being a part of something like a tribe on social media. Now, guys, I know we've been talking a ton about messaging here, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it has so much value, yes, but I know it's also about converting leads into customers or converting your casual fans into super fans as the main goal on social media. And one trend that has been coming up throughout all of this conversation has been making sure you have a specific call to action on your posts. And we really like to have a specific call to action because it really helps people and their consumption habits on social media have a little bit more purpose. So again, thinking about just scrolling through your feed, sometimes even you, I'm sure, will see in your behavior, you forget to stop and engage if you're just in that zone. So if you have a strong call to action, it can be a reminder to your followers that you want to engage with them. So ask them to click or comment or double tap on that Instagram post or visit that link in your profile. And you can see that and if they see that you're engaging back on your older posts and talking to your followers, they're much more likely to jump in the conversation and know that you value them and you value their opinion, and you'll get that meaningful conversation that the algorithms are looking for so much. So remember to do your part and engage with your followers and use social media as a social space going into 2019. So this trend, when we kind of sum it all up, is to put a meaningful call to action on every post you're putting out on social media. Now, one of the newer trends in 2018 that I think is going to continue into 2019 is stories. Facebook and Instagram stories is one of the biggest trends and fastest growing spaces online these days. Over 200 million people use Instagram stories each month. That's 50 million more than even use Snapchat stories. And it's only about a year old, guys. At this rate, it is going to be one of the strongest trends, I think, in 2019. So that means building stories into your social media strategy. And the great news for us as marketers, I think, is that this is one of the best ways that we can start to test our content on social media because they only live for 24 hours. And that is going to be a great place to gain the confidence and to do a little experimenting with your social strategy. So you can practice talking to the camera like you're talking to that one persona you developed, that one person out there. So your message hits them in a really intimate and personal way, and you can create a great bond with them. And you can start out pretty simple in your stories, to be honest. This might actually be a better tactic because you don't need to get all the information about your brand in one story out there. That can actually be a little bit damaging to your brand because humans don't do a really great job processing a ton of information at once. We do much better when it's broken down into simple points and teased out for us so that we can allocate our brain space to other things rather than just what's going on in Instagram. So a great idea to kind of start with stories if you're struggling to come up with concepts is to break it on into lists, say, here's this 3-step process that helps me do my daily routine a little bit more efficient. And our brains crave that simplicity. We crave that guided course of knowing it's going to be 3 steps. And there'll be a reason for them to watch your entire story all the way through if you throw that number out there at the beginning. So don't be intimidated of stories, guys. Hop on in there if you haven't tried them yet and connect with your audience in that authentic way to give that simple message about who and why your product matters. All right, moving on to the next trend here that we are going to call categories for connection. You probably have several different goals when it comes to your social media campaigns and the type of content that you focus, and your goals and results are going to be different for that. No one wants just a million fans with no engagement, just like no one wants the highest engagement rate, but no click-throughs to their website. So there are going to be quite a few moving parts when it comes to having categories for connections to keep all of your content in a smooth place. So this is why we do suggest categorizing your content. Creating categories helps keep things really consistent and balanced and helps ensure that posting gets out there to meet all of your social media goals. Now, you know we love the concept of categories here at Edgar. Our tool is based all around it. We focus our category-based system of posting and scheduling to really help our little octopus Edgar and our software build up your audience and build up your know, like, and trust factor. And we find that our community sees really great success adopting these strategies. It helps give your followers a connection and it keeps your feeds fresh and diverse so people don't get bored of the content that you're putting out there. It helps your customers not only not get bored, but it also helps them know that they should keep following you because you're not just broadcasting promotional content all the time. You're providing them with a variety of category-based content out there. So when creating content in each category, think why the content matters that you're putting out there. Think about your followers to make sure it's not just serving you, but serving that persona you developed to create the best possible connection. So along with creating categories to help guide your content creation in 2019, what categories also do is help guide your 2019 posting schedule. So social media posting and scheduling actually doesn't stop you from thinking about posting when you're inspired or connecting with your audience in real time. We like to say you automate for engagement. So it really makes your posts that much better because it'll reach an engaged audience when they are online. So creating a social media posting schedule now will actually serve you really well in the long run. So a social media schedule is the framework that should guide all of your social media posting and give you a really solid foundation so that you are always consistent, on message, on brand, and those are the things that truly matter when it comes to social posting. So let's run through here really quick as we wrap this up to make sure you have everything you need for your social media posting schedule. Some questions that we recommend you start out with is, do you know your audience and your persona? Do you know when they're active online? Do you know what platforms they visit most and what type of content works best on those platforms? Do you know what kind of categories and the content that you should be adding to those categories will be to have that strong call to action in each post? So by answering these questions, you have had your specific audience persona developed, knowing when they are going to be online, and it's going to really drive an effective social media posting schedule. Putting it all together here, you want to be choosing the days and times that you're going to post on each platform and planning that out ahead of time so that you don't get caught in that old trusty saying if you plan to fail, you're probably going to. So deciding when to post on each network is great. Deciding the categories and the times of day those categories should go out is also going to be a great strategy. Thinking, hey, do I want to start out with a motivational Monday post to really get my audience inspired for the week? And then maybe end the week and like more of my blog posts when people have more time on a Friday to read than maybe they do on a Monday. So start thinking about these consumption habits to bring it into your strategy. And creating and repurposing that different types of content on multiple platforms so that keeps your feeds fresh. So think of these trends as you start making your 2019 content and posting strategy. Getting started now and having a system set up early will ensure your social media not only adds more value to your community, but that it fits into your life and it doesn't run your life. Because we know you're so busy out there and we know how passionate you are about your business, and that deserves to be shared with your followers on social media. So comment below what you're excited about with your 2019 social strategy. And we're really excited to keep this discussion going as we wrap up 2018. Thanks so much for tuning in here, guys. It was really great chatting about this. As you can tell, MeetEdgar is really excited for 2019 posting strategy too. So let us know what you're thinking about in the comments below or by emailing support@meetedgar.com. Have an awesome rest of your day.